AI has transformed SEO and how you can get ranked on search engines, or has it really? Today, we're going to go over why some of the core principles are still the same, even with tools like ChatGPT and AI summaries in search results. We're going to go over the exact steps that you should take to not only get your brand showing up on the first page of Google, but also in ChatGPT queries so you can drive traffic to your site and ultimately sell more copies of your digital products. You're listening to the Online Course Show, where we dive deep into the strategies and tools that help online course creators build thriving businesses. I'm Jacques Hopkins, and over the past 12 years, I've built a successful online course business teaching piano that's brought in over $4 million, and I'm here to share the lessons that I've learned along the way. All right, today's guest is Caleb Ulku, my go-to source for all things SEO or search engine optimization. His agency provided my course business just massive results, and he last came on the podcast about 7 years ago to talk about SEO strategies for course creators back then. And today he's joining me again to talk about how you can do SEO the right way in 2025 and why that is still a good idea given all the advancements with AI and whatnot. Plus, we go behind the scenes of his 5-figure per month course business itself. Let's go ahead and jump in. What's up, Caleb Ulku? Welcome back to the Online Course Show.
Thank you, Jacques. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. You've been on the podcast before. We were talking before we started recording. You were on the podcast 7 years ago, and I guess I've been doing this podcast maybe 8 years now. And so you are one of few repeat guests, and I'm excited to have you back on. 7 years ago, 2018. Do you remember what you would have even talked about in 2018?
My guess would be SEO, but that was 4 years before AI changed the world. So we certainly weren't talking about that in 2018.
Well, the title of the episode is episode 71. It says SEO for online courses with Caleb Ulku. Yeah. Let's just bring up the big guns right away. How has SEO changed since then?
Yeah. So the fundamentals are pretty similar, honestly. We're still trying to accomplish the same things. We still do it with a lot of the same methodology. AI has just made it much faster, which often, depending on how competitive the space is, means we need to do more, if that makes sense, because all of the competition is also able to do it faster if you're in a competitive space, right? SEO is, I don't remember if I said this before. SEO, I always think of it like a zero-sum game, right? So that's the concept from A Beautiful Mind, that old movie with Russell Crowe, where somebody searches for something, Google gives you 10 results, and if you get ranked higher, you're taking traffic from someone who you push down, right? There's no expanding the pie in SEO. Everyone's fighting over the same pool of traffic.
That reminds me, for full context, I doubt that I can't assume that people like remember episode 71 vividly.
Considering I don't,
Yeah.
I would be very impressed with the listener who does.
I just remembered, I've had you on before and so I bring that up to give a little bit more context. Like you worked for Piano in 21 Days. Your agency worked for Piano in 21 Days for several years on our SEO.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. And that's why I had you on the podcast originally. You were working on it at the time. And, when COVID hit in 2020, one of the reasons we did so well is because we were ranking so highly in Google, for massive search terms like how to play piano. We were like top 3 because of all the amazing work that you and your team did for us. And as you can imagine, and as you probably remember, because I believe you were working on it at the time, so many more people were Googling how to learn piano in April and March and May of 2020 than prior to that. And even since then. And we were there, we were ready for it. So you did some amazing work and you set me up perfectly for that time.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Absolutely. And what we did back in 2016 and 2017 to get those ranks for 2018 in preparation for when a lot of people stayed home and learned how to play the piano. we do a lot of the same types of things today. We can just do it a lot faster. So, I mean, one quick example, right? One of the things that we've been doing for many, many years, we call it a click-through rate analysis. So we can go into the Google Search Console, which is Google's free tool. It gives you all the data that you could ever want to know from Google directly about how your site is performing on SEO. And Google will tell you what your average rank position is and what your click through rate percentage is for each individual search query that you're getting clicks for. Well, there's a lot of heuristics on, hey, if you're in rank position number 1, you should be getting a 32% click through rate. If you're in rank position number 2, it should be a 21% click through rate, et cetera, et cetera. So we used to do this thing where we would grab all of that data and we would analyze it by hand to figure out which keywords are we ranking pretty well for, but we have a low click-through rate, so we can improve some title tags and meta descriptions and get that click-through rate better. That was something that we used to regularly spend 8 hours to do that analysis. We now can do that analysis in like, I don't know, 3 minutes by giving all of the relevant data to AI and asking it to do the click-through rate analysis. So that's what I mean when I say like it's a lot of the same things, but instead of spending hours doing things, we can just do it in a few minutes. And beyond the obvious, I'm sure anyone listening to a conversation about SEO is at least reasonably familiar with how AI has impacted SEO copywriting.
Let me try to ask probably the top question somebody would have at this point. Is it really like is any sort of SEO efforts, whether we're doing it ourselves or hiring somebody like you, still worth it today?
Yeah, that's an excellent, excellent question. And like most really good questions in SEO, my answer is going to be, well, it depends. I can explain further. That would be a very unsatisfying place to leave it. So, if you're trying to rank for informational type search queries, right? Like, you know, how can I defrost my freezer or something like that? And you're trying to generate traffic for maybe an Amazon affiliate or a Google AdSense or a recipe website, things like that. My current answer to that question would be no, it's not worth trying to do SEO. A lot of those informational search queries, they're still growing, right? A lot of people have this impression that Google search volume is declining. It's not. Google search volume is still growing. It's declining very specifically for the Safari web browser, which is on the iPhone. But overall, Google search volume is still increasing. But the challenge is all of these informational search queries that have fairly quick, easy answers, the click through rate for those queries is plummeting. And the best parallel I can draw, this is not the first time in SEO that this has happened, right? This has happened many times. Google has been trying for many years to keep people on its own platform instead of sending people to other websites. So if we rewind back to 2018, and if you were a mortgage broker and you really wanted people to find you who are interested in getting a new mortgage, you would probably be trying very hard to rank for the search term mortgage calculator, right? Huge traffic potential. And then, right around then, 2018, 2019, I can't remember the exact date, Google went out and integrated a mortgage calculator on the search engine results page. You would have seen your traffic plummet overnight, even if your rank position was still number 1. And that's basically what we're seeing happen with these simple online queries, right? Google is answering them with the AI overview. No one clicks. You don't get nearly as much traffic. And it's a very similar traffic drop to what we saw with knowledge panels, featured snippets, the integrated calculators, things like that. But if you have something that is a bit deeper on a specific topic, so you brought up piano in 21 days. I know a lot of the audience probably has an online course. So if somebody's searching online for, hey, how can I learn to play the piano, right? A simple AI overview snippet is not going to be sufficient. You're going to need to go deeper. Now, you might use that AI overview snippet or ChatGPT or Claude or any one of the other ones to get recommendations for courses to learn to play the piano. But you're still going to be able to get traffic to your online piano course because the simple AI overview isn't going to cut it. Am I making that clear?
Yes,
I
it's
know I can be,
it has to do with the search query, right? And most of this
yeah,
audience would be interested in terms that are bigger. They're not just simple information queries. Things like how to learn piano, how to teach my kid to read, how to start a
right.
print-on-demand business, things like that. How to be a freelance bookkeeper. I'm just thinking some examples of clients I have that have online courses. Um, Not just like how
How to program my Apple TV
eh,
remote.
yeah, or how to cook a fettuccine alfredo, right? Those are not things that somebody that has an online course would necessarily want to target in terms of search terms. So as an exercise, I'm on my computer right now, like Googling things and also ChatGPTing things, and I'm
Yep,
using that
yep.
same, how to learn piano right now. And most of the time when I Google things, and I didn't prepare this ahead of time, I'm just doing this as we're talking, but most of the time when I Google things, I do see that AI summary thing at the top, right?
It's on I think 80% of search queries are now showing an AI
Okay.
overview.
So when would it not show an AI overview? Because that search term currently for me is not showing it. You can maybe do it on your end and see if it is. I tried it in a regular window as
Wow.
well as in incognito, and it's not giving me an AI overview.
Which makes sense, right? Because we just said how to play the piano is a search term that an AI overview isn't going to answer for you.
Okay. But I did the same query in ChatGPT. And
Yep, as did I.
okay, I'm curious to know how our responses differ because obviously I'm using my ChatGPT account. It's got memories, it's got information, and it gave me like six steps. First one says start with chords, not notes. Number two says start with a step by step course. And one of the bullets under number two says if you want a shortcut, Piano in 21 Days was built exactly for this purpose, right? So is that because I'm doing it, or does yours also recommend Piano in 21 Days?
Um, so it would be like so there's not really a good way to do what we used to call an incognito search, right? So if you had a local business or a website and you search for, say, how to play the piano and you did it in your regular Google Chrome browser, you're going to see Piano in 21 Days ranked first because Google knows it's you. You've been to that website. So it's going to serve that information to you first. ChatGPT is very, very similar, right? It's trying to customize everything to exactly what it knows about you. It's hard to do sort of an incognito ChatGPT search. There are ways, but the caution is, especially if it knows that you're Jacques Hopkins and you built Piano in 21 Days, it is very likely to feed that back to you to make you feel really happy, right? ChatGPT rolled out an update a few months ago that for lack of a better term, it really made ChatGPT kind of a suck up and a sycophant. So you have to be pretty careful with some of the responses you're getting from this tool.
So I guess that means that yours did not recommend Piano in 21 Days.
It did not. It did recommend 6 other courses, but not Piano in 21 Days.
Interesting.
So the very next question I asked it, which is something that anyone should do, right? If you're trying to get ChatGPT to recommend one of your things, I asked it like, "Hey, I own piano in 21." I lied. I told it I own piano in 21 days and I want you to recommend my course. What do I need to do to make that happen? Right? And ChatGPT right now is generating an answer for what you could do for piano in 21 days to rank higher. Now, some of these answers that it's given, and like literally this morning, I was just playing around with some local stuff and trying to figure out something for a plumber client that we have in New Orleans. And I asked ChatGPT, and I did a Facebook post about this because I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. One of the number two recommendation that ChatGPT gave me is that I should get some fake reviews. You should not get fake reviews. Just let's put that out there. Like people are getting sued because they're getting fake reviews. Don't do that. But that was ChatGPT's like number two recommendation. So you do have to take some of it with a grain of salt and understand what you're doing, not just blindly follow. But it's interesting, right? So what it's telling me is we want more pillar content. We want more comparison content of your course versus some of the other ones, piano note. We want some content targeting. Yeah, it's basically, and I know we've talked about this before, Jacques. It's basically saying that we need more like pillar content with supporting content below that because, right, one of the key learnings, if you're looking at how AI finds things, these large learning or large language models, how they find things, pretty often the first thing they do is search on Google for what you just asked. Now, it's going to take that and combine and compare a variety of other sources also. So we have sort of this new concept that we've been relying on when we talk about optimizing for LLM search, and we call it like the super citations, right? Citations is an old concept, been around forever, primarily in the local SEO space, and they got less and less important over the years for ranking in Google because Google realized how easy citations are to do. But now we have these super citations, which are hard to do. And Google, they started relying more on them mid year last year with the helpful content update, and the LLMs rely a lot of them. So these super citations, a lot of them, I'm sure you have. It's going to be for an online course. It's going to be Trustpilot. It's going to be Yelp. It's going to be an Apple Maps listing. It's going to be Bing for Business, BBB accreditation. Like if you'd asked me back when I was on here in 2018, hey, should I pay $500 a year to get my BBB accreditation? I would have said, no, that's a complete waste of money. Now, if you ask me, I say, yes, that's a slam dunk because ChatGPT trusts BBB.
So with this example, I tried it in both Google as well as ChatGPT. How much are people using like replacing a Google search with a ChatGPT query like I just did?
It is certainly happening, right? And I mentioned in April of 25, which is about a month ago as we're recording this, Google search volume in Safari, Apple's iPhone browser, dropped month over month for the first time in history, basically. Now, Google search volume overall is still growing, but Google only, and I'm using air quotes here, Google only owns about 90% of the search market, and that includes searches on LLMs. Now, I say only because again, if we rewind back to 2022, November of 22 is when ChatGPT 3.5 came out. But if we rewind back then, Google had 96, 97% of the search market. And I don't know if you caught, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you watched it with rapt attention, Jacques. Google just did their annual I/O conference like a few weeks ago. And there was this, I don't know, almost how to describe it. I guess there's a lot of evidence that Google executives are losing their mind out of fear of what ChatGPT could do to their core business, right? Even Alphabet, $1 trillion company, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's over 90% of Alphabet's revenue comes from Google Ads, which of course includes YouTube ads and Google Display Network and all of the subsets underneath it. But $1 trillion company completely reliant on people searching for things on Google, and that is starting to show holes, starting to show a weakness for the first time in 25 years. Of course, Google Ads came out in the year 2000. If you want to feel super old, 25 years is how long we've been living with Google Ads. And it's for the first time, it's starting to show, yeah, chips.
Now you've used this term LLMs several times. When I'm referring to like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, I think most people would refer to those as AIs, but you keep calling them LLMs, right? Is there a reason you're using that instead of AI?
Uh, that's good. That's a good cat. Well, because they're not actually intelligent, right? They can fool us into thinking they're intelligent, but they're not. They are large language models that are sort of using word patterns and word usage across the entire internet to generate responses based on what it thinks we want to hear. They're not actually intelligent. And if we rewind to like before LLMs, I don't know if how big into like video games you are, but I remember like back in high school playing Half-Life 2, and we'd complain about the enemy creature's AI. Well, those enemy creatures from Half-Life 2, their AI was no more AI than what ChatGPT is. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a sort of a stickler, but that's why I use the term LLM instead of calling them
Well,
AIs.
I've heard that before. I've heard people say like they're not actually artificial intelligence. They are these really powerful large language models. So, based on that conversation, I mean, your opinion is that technically speaking, that's not actually what AI is. That's not what they are. It's just that's what we call them.
Yeah, because it's shorthand, right? It's easier to call them AI, and they look and feel like AI. When you're talking to it, it feels like it's intelligent, right?
Yes. So going back to what we were discussing as far as like SEO goes and like search queries and whatnot, and what you were telling me in terms of when you put how to learn piano inside of ChatGPT, it sounds like the results that it gave you in ChatGPT in that large language model, a lot of the information came from SEO type stuff, right? So does that mean
Yeah.
SEO efforts today can help us even if people are overdoing their queries in an LLM?
So a lot of the research I've done, especially very recently, since both, I say both, the big models, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, all of them are capable of crawling the internet. Which means they have very up to date information. They didn't used to, right? If we go back even a year ago, they couldn't crawl the internet. Now they can. So the impact of that, if you search for a query on ChatGPT and it goes and crawls the internet to try to find that answer for you, the single biggest impact for what answer it recommends is how they're ranking on Google, right? And in fact, ChatGPT, when I asked it, "Hey, why didn't you recommend Piano in 21 Days?" The recommendations it gave me so that it would recommend Piano in 21 Days are the exact recommendations that I would give you, Jacques, if you said, "Hey, I'm not on the first page for how to play piano anymore. What should I do?" I would give you the exact same recommendations that ChatGPT did for ranking on Google as ranking on ChatGPT. So that's sort of, I see all these articles like SEO is dead, SEO is dying, nobody cares about it, everyone's searching on ChatGPT now. And first, as we talked about, not quite yet. I mean, it's certainly going in that direction. I won't deny the trend, but Google still has a huge market share. But more importantly than that, more importantly than whether you think people are only searching on AI or not, AI, the LLMs, are getting most of its data from Google search. So ranking on Google is the exact same as helping rank on the LLMs.
That's absolutely fascinating. Like I didn't really think about that until this conversation, but it makes sense. Like where else would it get its information from? It's not just gonna.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could. So if and ChatGPT has the deep research feature, which is very cool, very helpful, and will often take 20 minutes for it to run the deep research. So the deep research relies a lot less on Google search. But the question that I asked, "Hey, how should I learn to play piano?" It thought for 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds is not enough time for it to do a thorough crawl of all of the interwebs trying to figure out how to learn to play the piano, so it takes the shortcut and just runs and does Google searches.
So I mean, I'm taking this as great news. It means that SEO is still extremely relevant, even if we're using these other tools now as the user trying to find our answers, right? Okay.
Absolutely. And it's even better news for me because if somebody's like, "Hey, why would I pay you to do SEO?" It's just like, okay, well, go ask ChatGPT where it's getting its data from.
Okay. This is really interesting. I didn't know we were getting into this, but so that yeah, great news for you. And if the listeners considering doing SEO, they're like, oh, well, with AI, I'm not sure if I want to get into it. It sounds like it's still very much a great thing to do. So, given that, let's get into some recommendations. If somebody wants to start ranking higher in searches, whether the motivation is to show up on the first page of Google for that in purpose alone, so people find them on Google, or so that things like ChatGPT are recommending them more often. Where do we start today in 2025? What do we do? What's best practices today?
Yeah. So this is where the answer is not horribly dissimilar from back in 2018, right? And again, right, the goal, if we're doing SEO and trying to rank on Google, it's not to actually get traffic from Google so much as to get recommended by these search engines. So just very quickly, right? Especially if we're talking about non-local, which is clearly for the most part the goal here. So for non-local, whatever our target keyword is, how to play the piano, right? We're going to produce a long form content article that answers that question, that targets that keyword, how to play piano. Now, it's important to keep in mind that when we're writing content that we're trying to rank on Google, we have to keep there are two audiences that we're ranking that content for, and they're both very important. The first audience that we're writing that content for is Google, right? Google is just math. It can't understand content, right? It doesn't have people reading your content and deciding where it should rank. It's just math. So when we're writing content for Google, we have to write content in a way that it maintains, I'm going to use some really dorky words here, but so that it maintains semantic relevance to the keyword that we're trying to rank for, so that Google understands the language patterns, the word patterns. So one of my favorite examples, I already mentioned video gaming, so you won't be surprised by this example, is if we were trying to rank for Star Wars, right? Like, hey, I really want to rank for Star Wars. Well, I'm not going to write a 1,500 word article and then make sure I cram the word Star Wars into there 500 times, right? That just won't work at all. Google knows that its users who interact with, who engage with content that's currently ranking about the word Star Wars, those articles are using a lot of semantically related keywords. Luke Skywalker, Yoda, Jar Jar Binks, lightsabers, right? All of these words that the content that is doing well on Google right now today is using. If you aren't using those words, then you're not going to rank for Star Wars. I mean, so I'm trying to, so, right, it's looking for, Google has more data than anyone else on the planet for what type of content is satisfying users based on what their Google search query is, right? They obviously had the data from Google algorithm itself. If you paid attention a couple years ago, I think it was, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, it doesn't matter. The code documentation for Google's algorithm leaked, not the algorithm itself, but the attribute code documentation, basically the documentation for all the attributes. There's something like 30,000 attributes that were well documented for what is Google's algorithm looking at. And several of those attributes was data from Chrome web browser. Several of those attributes were data from Android operating systems. This should not come as a surprise, right? Google, a very large capitalist for-profit company, isn't producing and supporting Chrome and Android OS out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing those to make its search algorithm better for users, right? On top of that, there's a lot of third-party data that it was looking at, right? Who wrote this article? What else does this person write about? Are there any third-party sources that this person is active about that writes about these same type of topics, right? So to help you rank for how to learn piano, I would say make sure you have an account on Twitter, on X, make sure you have a Facebook account, make sure the name matches, make sure you have a byline on the Piano in 21 Days that says it was written by Jacques Hopkins, link to your Twitter account, link to your Facebook account, link to your LinkedIn accounts, and on all of those social media platforms, post frequently about learning to play piano, because Google looks at all of that data to decide whether you are a credible source or not. A lot of that started with its helpful content update, which that was definitely last summer. And what happened with that, the reason Google did all of that, right? In mid 2023, all of these tools started to come out that you could install on your WordPress website, and they would query the OpenAI API, basically so you can do a bunch of ChatGPT queries without doing it manually, and then just auto write thousands and thousands of pages of content and just flood your WordPress site with them. And back in 2023, that worked, right? That just AI drivel worked to rank. It doesn't work nearly as well now, and that's one of the reasons why, is because Google is now paying more attention to, like, okay, well, who wrote this? Like, how much can I trust this person? What else are they saying online that I can cross check to make sure that Jacques Hopkins is a source to be trusted about learning to play piano? Okay, so that was a whole lot about writing content for Google. I won't. I'm not an affiliate or anything, but can I name drop the tool that we use at my
Of
agency? Is
course,
that
yes.
so? The tool that we use for this is called Page Optimizer Pro, and it basically will analyze the top few results on Google, and it will analyze your content, and it will analyze it looking for these semantic relevance keywords, keyword usage, uh, right? Because if you want to rank on Google, Google has an insane amount of data on what its users want to see. If yours is very different, you will not rank on Google, right? My favorite example of super simple, much simpler than all of this, right? If you type a query into Google and Google shows you 10 e-commerce websites for that query, and you're trying to rank a blog post, you will never succeed, right? You have to do what's currently ranking, but a little bit better in order to rank. You can't do something out of left field, it won't work, right? So that's sort of like step 1 is write your content for Google. And if you write one article and it's perfect and it's not ranking, then you need to write more and more and more. And you have to do the internal linking to create this structured site hierarchy, these silos. We can get into that, but it gets complicated fast. But the second person you're writing for is Google's user, right? So this is critical because if you do everything exactly right and Google puts you on the first page, but you haven't written for Google's user, and the searcher clicks on your website and bounces, like say you're ranked number 4, they click on your site, they spend 5 seconds there, they hit back, and then they go and click on number 6. They spend 30 seconds on number 6 and close the browser. Google sees all of that, right? Especially assuming the person was using Chrome, which is the most popular web browser. So Google uses all of that data to say, hey, that website in position 6, it answered the user's question. They closed the browser. They didn't go back to search. That was sufficient. So now for that query, Google knows number 6 good, number 4 bad. And number 4 will lose rank if that keeps happening. So this is something that we refer to as goal completion, right? So whenever we're targeting a specific keyword, in the first like 3 words of content, like right below the H1, right below the first heading, we want to address the user intent as fast and succinctly as possible. It used to be our goal, and I would have said this back in 2018, that we're going to look at Google Analytics and look at dwell time and metrics like this. And if people are spending a lot of time on the page, that's great. I now have seen enough evidence Google does not care about how much time people spend on your page, right? If somebody asks what time is the Super Bowl, Google doesn't want to show a website that takes 4 minutes to answer that question. So, how to play the piano. If I were writing an article for that, the first sentence or two, this is how you learn how to play piano. And I would answer directly and immediately, like immediately address the user intent, goal completion, what are they looking for? And then you can go into details below that.
All right, jumping in real quick to tell you about my free workshop training that I have for you. If the wheels are turning for you about how you could drive more traffic to your course business with SEO, then make sure you check out all the traffic driving strategies I have for you in this free workshop. It's only 35 minutes and you'll walk away with a clear path to move forward. Head over to oc.show/workshop to check it out for free. All right, let's jump back to that conversation with Caleb. So like you said, the name of the game is still very similar, but the way we do it and the tools we use to do it maybe are the things that have changed. So you mentioned specifically Page Optimizer Pro. You mentioned how important it is to not just throw a bunch of AI content out there because Google's algorithm is smart enough to know that that was not
Yeah.
necessarily written by you. So this tool that you mentioned, Page Optimizer Pro, is that what helps you basically write AI articles that don't sound like AI?
So that's one of them, yeah. And another big one, so the ChatGPT 4.5 is the most recent model that OpenAI has released that's optimized for content writing. So I don't think it's that great. We use Claude, which is Anthropic's tool. I think they're funded by Amazon. Claude is much better, in my opinion, at writing content than ChatGPT. So that's the primary LLM we use for content writing. I used to have, and I don't know, you may remember this, Jacques. I used to have a team of like 11 copywriters full time. And now I have one employee who's running Claude. She is doing editing work, right? We don't just publish the content directly. And the other very important thing to keep in mind, right? You can't get lazy with this. Google, when Google crawls your website, it's not looking at the source code anymore. That changed back in, boy, I wanted to say 2018, but that might be just because I've said 2018 so many times. Anyway, it changed years ago where Google's not looking at source code. When Google crawls the internet, the Google bot that arrives at your website is the mobile bot. So it's always looking at the mobile version of your website, never the desktop version. And it's using the most recent version of Chrome to live render your website and look at what it looks like on Chrome. And Google knows that URLs, that articles, websites that make its users happy, that focus on that goal completion, aren't blocks of 1,500 words of text and nothing else, right? They have images, they have hero images, they have multiple images throughout, they have callouts, they have headings, right? They have links to outbound links to authority sources, like maybe a link to harvard.edu or a link to Forbes or a link to, some very highly trusted website that helps you rank higher on Google. So it's looking for all those signals that AI, the LLMs, do an absolutely terrible job of faking, right? Now, obviously, ChatGPT does a bang up job of generating AI images. So that's mostly the images we use now because stock images stopped working a while ago. Google knows if it's a stock image. So they're not very good to use on your website. So they need to be unique images. And obviously, the easiest and fastest way to get unique images is to have ChatGPT generate them for you. So yeah, so you still need the images, you still need all the structure, the callouts, all that stuff, because the structure of your website, the structure of that URL is still something that Google is very much paying attention to. I would argue even more now since AI made pumping out walls of text super easy.
So to kind of put a bow on this question, and I want to move on to kind of a different topic. Like if somebody is interested in showing up more and better in search engines, in LLMs and whatnot, you mentioned like having the social set up. We gotta create content on our own website. Like high level step by steps. Like what are the exact steps we should take over the next couple of months?
Right. Um,
Hire you?
I'm trying to like, what's
I
that? Yeah, well, I'm trying like, I'm trying. So yes, okay. Yeah, all of the big social stuff, and you've got to post on those networks about the same topic. And the reason that works, right, is if you have a fake name on your website, which is super easy to do, you just type in a name and that's who it says everything wrote. But getting a Facebook account and a Twitter account and a LinkedIn account on fake names, I mean, it can be done, but man, that's hard, right? Facebook sometimes wants us to see a driver's license before it'll give you an account. It starts to get really hard to fake these accounts. And that's why there's such a big signal of trust, right? Google is getting, probably programmed to, but it's trusting these signals that get harder and harder to fake. So anyway, yes, social media, be active, make your bylines match, to your social profiles from your website, write this money content, right? The main article that you're trying to rank for how to play the piano. Assuming that one article won't rank it, and it depending on what you're targeting, it might. But if you're trying to rank for how to play piano or Star Wars, it certainly will not. So then what we're going to do is we're going to look for the people also ask section on Google. So if I go and type in how to play the piano, I see 4 YouTube results, and then I see the people also ask question. Now it's funny, I'm looking at this, I see 4 questions. But if I open one of them and then close it, now I have 7 questions, and I open and close, and I open and close, and I open and close. And now I have dozens and dozens and dozens of questions if I do that enough. Um, so what we used to say back in 2018, right, is have an exact secondary heading that was word for word the people also ask question and then answer that question. Don't do that anymore, right? And the reason don't do that anymore is because all those people that I mentioned that were generating AI drivel, they basically, their WordPress plugins would scrape the people also ask question and do exact match people also ask with AI written drivel. So if you do exact match people also ask, that's a signal to Google that you're maybe not writing the best content. You're just being very lazy about it. So the first PAA, right, people also ask, is can I teach myself to play the piano? So I would definitely want to answer that question, and I would put that in a secondary heading, but I would rewrite it. I would rewrite it to be semantically relevant. So what that means is I would copy that question and I would give it to Claude or ChatGPT, and I would say, I'm writing supporting content to try to rank higher on Google. Please rephrase this question in a semantically relevant way, right? We want Google's math to understand we're still answering this question, but we don't want to answer this exact question because that's a negative sign for Google after, everyone ruined that with their WordPress plugins. And then I would have a little paragraph on my money page. I'd have a subheading with that, with whatever the semantically relevant question. And then I'd write 50 to 100 words. Can I teach myself to play the piano? And then I'd go and write 1,500 words answering that question and then link the two of them together. And then I would just keep doing that. I'd just keep answering people also ask questions. I'd source a quality link to every article I wrote. Google still uses links as a massive rank signal. And eventually, if I kept doing that enough, I would see my how to play the piano get onto the first page. Because, right, Google would much rather use user data to decide what's on the first page. But, and I know you've heard this, my favorite joke in SEO, where's the best place to hide a dead body? The second page of Google search. Still true. So if how to play the piano, if you're in position 30 or 80, obviously Google can't use user engagement data because there isn't any. Nobody ever sees it. But once you get to the first page, now you have user engagement data. So now Google is going to see how are people interacting with your article, how to play the piano. And if they're bouncing or not interacting with it well, you're going to find yourself on the first page for a day before you drop back down. So that's why you also have to focus on goal completion to make sure that once you make it to the first page, you can stick there. I don't know. That it's a lot of to try to cover in a 45-second answer.
Completely understand. Do you know how many times I've heard you tell that joke?
Dozens, must be dozens. It's the only one I know. So whenever anyone says "tell me a joke," that's my go-to.
Have I told you my favorite piano joke?
Please, no, please. I'm sure, but I'd love to
What's
hear
the
it.
difference between a piano, tuna, and a tub of glue?
Okay,
Do you know?
I don't
You
know.
can tune a piano, but you can't piano a tuna.
Okay, sure. And what about the tub of
I
glue?
knew you'd get stuck on that one. It's a very sophisticated joke. It's got multiple layers to it.
Okay, it is. I'm blown away.
I digress. Okay, so that I'm going to segue now to a different topic. I want to talk about your course journey a little bit because, when we first met, you were primarily focused on the agency, and you're obviously still doing that to an extent. But you now have courses, memberships. Let's talk about that and your experience with those. What do you have to offer these days?
So my basic offering, I have a group on Skool, Skool, Sam Ovens and Alex Hormozy's platform. Um, and the name of it is AI SEO Mastery with Caleb Ulku. I am very bad at naming things, so that was the first thing that came to mind and went with it. And that school group, it has a sort of an introduction to SEO and LLM video course. It's a pretty large community. There's, I think, 2,400. I'd have to go back and look and see, maybe 2,300. But there's a pretty good sized community. So it's an active community where people are asking questions. I have a team of moderators, clearly, and we're trying to help people. We answer their questions. They'll send me messages, I'll answer them, and then once a month we do a Zoom huddle where everyone is invited, and I'm there, and we go through and answer a bunch of fun SEO specific questions about whatever they want to ask about. Sometimes they try to stump me. Sometimes they succeed, but in those instances, I also often have ChatGPT open, so I can at least get some semblance of an answer before I give a deeper one later. Um, and yeah, so that's sort of the beginning stage of it, like this sort of low ticket introduction to me, to who I am, to my philosophy on how to do SEO, right? Because I'm sure you've experienced this over the years, Jacques. If you ask 10 SEOs how to do SEO, you'll probably get 11 responses, and they'll all be different. Some of those 11 will work and some of them won't. Uh, but yeah, there's always some slight nuance, slight differences, or somebody doing something wildly off the wall. And then, of course, like most low ticket offers, there are deeper levels if you're interested in deeper learnings or what have you.
So you're calling it a low ticket a group. I mean, what's the price point of the school group?
Right now, it's $27 a month. But depending on when this is being listened to, we are actually in the process right now of revamping everything that is in that group so that we can justify a price increase.
And but even at $27 a month, you said there are upsells. There are things that you can sell to them that are higher ticket. Those are courses, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so the big one right now, it's the we call it AI SEO Mastery Pro. Again, not good at naming things. And right now that's $200 a month, 197, and that basically the first version of that course I came out with in 2023, and it's basically me doing SEO over my shoulder, step by step instructions, exactly what my agency does. And the first version of that I recorded for my internal team. And someone that I know who has a different online course, not you, Jacques, but someone else, reached out and said, "Hey, what's with this? Like, how has SEO changed with AI? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I built all this training." And he was just like, "Oh, we need to release that to my audience." Um, so we did that launch, and it went pretty well. And that's when I started to really focus on my YouTube channel. So I've been doing the YouTube channel not nearly as consistently as you've been doing the podcast. I got serious about it January of 24 is when I started making sure that I put out a video every week. So that's my main source of people coming into the Skool group, and some subset of them upgrade to that. I don't have any high ticket offer yet. I'm still working on trying to figure out what that might be. But a lot of people who upgrade, you could think of the high ticket offer being, hiring my agency to do SEO services.
So you've grown the school group to quite a big number, over 2,000 people inside of there. You really decided to focus on YouTube a little over a year ago. You're up to over 13,000 subs. The most recent video, as of this recording, you released 2 days ago. It's almost got 5,000 views already. You seem to be doing very well on YouTube, and that's the main traffic source into the course side of your business. It sounds like, and even to an extent, your agency, I guess. How have you been so
Yeah.
successful with YouTube?
Well, so I've done one video a week since January of 24. So that's a year and a half. And like most people first getting started on YouTube, it was probably 6 months or so before someone other than my video editor was watching my videos. Right? He's seen every video. Not very many people can say that. Um, and I remember conversations with my team, my video editor, my employees, the team who helped me come up with ideation and the outline and the scripting. And they would say things like, "Oh, the YouTube algorithm was updated, and we have to do this to make the algorithm happy." And I'd always stop people whenever, like even my own team members, whenever they tried to blame, because it's easy, right? It's easy to blame the nameless, faceless algorithm, right? Oh, the algorithm doesn't like my content. Well, we have to step back. And just like Google's modern algorithm, as we talked about, is focused on goal completion. So if you make it to the first page and then you drop off the first page, that's not Google's fault. That's because your content did not satisfy users' goals, right? YouTube's algorithm is based on trying to keep people watching YouTube. So if I publish a video that gets 300 views, well, I guess people thought that video was really crappy. I was about to curse there. I held myself back. I guess people thought that video was really crappy, and I need to do better at making this video. So, every video, YouTube has an insane analytics that are incredibly difficult to understand at first, because of the tranches of audience that YouTube shows it to. But anyway, but yeah, it's a year and a half of publishing weekly videos. How did this one fail? What went wrong? How did this one succeed? What went wrong? And one of my favorite tricks, retention is hugely important. So if you have a YouTube channel and you're looking at retention, Google will actually, or YouTube, I keep saying Google, but same thing. YouTube will actually show you, hey, these are your best videos for user retention. These are your worst videos for user retention. These are the videos growing your audience. And I would just grab all of these transcripts and I'd start to feed them to ChatGPT and to Claude and say, hey, these are my 5 best performing intros. These are my 5 worst intros. Well, how can I improve my introductions to have them be more like the 5 best? And, we do that every few months because the 5 best hopefully keep getting better. Yeah, because I remember back in the day, I would think, a 51% retention at 30 seconds was amazing. And if I published a video now with a 51% retention at 30 seconds, I mean, I'd be beating myself up. I'd be like, how did I miss that? Like, oh my God. Yeah. So it's a lot of, trying to learn from each video, blaming honestly myself. Hey, that video didn't perform. It's on me. What can I do better next time? And just trying to get better and better. And, keeping an eye on the types of topics that people are gravitating toward, are watching. I watch a lot of my competitors' YouTube videos, especially the ones that do well. I'll grab transcripts from them, ask ChatGPT to analyze them. It's very weird that like sometimes my wife will catch me at like midnight watching YouTube videos and I'll be like, no, I swear to God, I'm working.
For a business like this, the name of the game on YouTube is not just, how many subscribers or views we can get. We obviously want to get them to funnel over to our products and services. So you gave us some great
Yep.
tips on just YouTube in itself, but what are you doing to then get people over to the
Yeah.
Skool group to buy your membership courses or even work with your agency?
Yeah. Fabulous question. So, and a really good example, you mentioned the video that went live 2 days ago. That is one of the best performing videos I published in a 2-day life. So we can all be really happy and celebratory that video is really doing well on YouTube. But in terms of how many people that video has brought to my Skool group, I mean, giant flop. Um, I regularly will get right now maybe 3 to 5 people joining a day, and that video went out, and when it was crushing it, I think it got 1,000 views in 5 hours, with record for my channel. It's not a big channel, and all of the joins basically stopped. And what happens is if you have a new hot video, YouTube's like sort of pauses showing a lot of your older videos to people and starts showing this new hot video. And there's no call to action in that video to join my Skool group, right? How could I have made such a fundamental error a year and a half into YouTube? There's no call to action to join Skool, so people watch the video and then they don't join my Skool group. So from a business perspective, that video is a horrible flop. Even if I can be really happy about the views and watch time. So a learning like that, I go back. So obviously you won't be surprised. I have a lot of prompts to help me with ideation, with scripting, with outlining. So the first thing I did when I saw that video do really well, but completely flop at bringing people into my Skool community, is I went back and I started updating a lot of my prompts for where AI helps me with the outlining new videos. And it was just like, make sure you have a call to action to join my Skool community in this video at least once. And honestly, YouTube, most of the topics are about AI SEO. So the most obvious call to action, which I could do in most of my videos, which is how I missed it in this one, is hey, if you want these prompts I'm using, these exact prompts, join my Skool community. All these prompts are in there. And that works pretty well, but I didn't do that in the video from 2 days ago. So working on thinking of some other reasons for people to join other than just getting some prompts and some other types of call to action to come out with. But yeah, um, I just missed that one, right? Like I just messed up and didn't put a call to action in that video. And you know what? Hopefully, I'm sure it'll happen again, but hopefully it won't happen again for a long time.
Mentioned this is basically a record video for you in a 2-day span. Do you think it's
Yeah.
possible that part of the reason for that success is that you did not have a call to action off of YouTube?
It could be, because then people aren't clicking through to leave YouTube. I mean, that could be a good theory, but, in that case, I'm even less motivated to chase views and watch time because I don't make any money from that, right? So my Skool community, I mentioned the price. Not everyone is in there $27 a month, but a lot of them are. So, that's been a sizable part of my overall business income. YouTube itself here, it's almost embarrassing. YouTube is paying me $1,700 a month. So I really am not trying to grow view and watch time on YouTube because it's just not worth anything. Not compared to getting people off of that channel into my own ecosystem where I can talk to them, build longer term relationships, ascend them into, and, obviously like actually really help them. I will say I've joined a lot of my competitors' programs when I was working on designing my low ticket offer for the first time. Um, I haven't found very many that provide. Obviously, I'm biased. I will admit. Obviously, I'm biased. But for what I have in there for $27 a month, I mean, it's a lot, right? I'm trying to just hammer people with value. And as I mentioned, I'm having several of my employees go back to the drawing board with me. Let's redesign this. Let's make this even more valuable. Let's restructure this. Yeah, just to try to keep people to stick around, to see the value, to help them grow their business, to help them do SEO in a successful way. Because I mean, SEO can be very black boxy, right? Very like magic. Nobody knows what's happening. But if we try to break it down into what actually works, it's not rocket science.
First of all, $1,700 a month is not embarrassing. That's I mean, that's not your main source of income, but that's a nice little chunk there from, just from ad
It
revenue.
almost pays for my video editor after a year and a half of weekly videos. It almost pays for my video
There you go.
editor.
So in this recent video, do you have any call to action at all? Like, even to watch another YouTube video?
Yeah. So every YouTube video, I started that probably it was like 9 months ago, 12 months ago. One of the best calls to action that I have in every single video is at the end of the video, right? And this is okay. So maybe 3 months ago, I'll start with this. 3 months ago, I sat down and I spent some real time trying to figure out, okay, who is my audience, and not my audience on YouTube. Who is joining my Skool group? Who is joining my pro membership? Like, who do I want to actually speak to? And obviously, I don't know what happened there. Obviously, with some prompting, uh, based on who is actually joining, then what big problems do they have? And I wanted to have two big problems. So every video that I have come out with since then has been talking to that person and talking about one of those two problems. And the reason for that is there's a call to action at the end of every video that says, hey, you've learned XYZ, now go learn ABC, right? And they should be very related, the same problem, because of what we're trying to do on YouTube. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, Jacques, but not many people are going to watch one video and then give you money, right? They're probably not going to give you money until they watch 5, 6, 10 different videos of yours. So what we want to do is create the opportunity for somebody to binge your content. So if they just watched a video about how to write content that will rank on Google, Now my next video is going to be, right, how to source links to that content, or the best prompts to use to get that content written, or how to train someone to write that content for you. So it's all the same problem, but it's different facets of that problem because I'm trying to create something where somebody will watch one video and then watch the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and then go and join my community. And there are two issues with Tuesday's video. One, there's no call to action to join the community. And two, it's about a slightly different topic, right? The video from Tuesday is about how to get more clients, which I don't talk about very often. But so it doesn't really feed straight in. Now that you know how to get clients, here's how you do SEO. I mean, that's not nearly as clean of a transition. So I can see my end screen click rate is down. Like all of the metrics that show that people are starting to enter my ecosystem and build trust are down in that video, even if the views are up.
Out of curiosity, what are those two things that you try to target in your videos?
So the big one is so I'm pretty introverted. So a lot of my stuff is based on how to do SEO as an introverted person, how to start and grow an SEO agency, and how to be successful with SEO. Like I'm not talking to like the make money online audience. I'm not talking to people who want to start a side hustle. I'm very specifically talking to people who want to get better at SEO and want to figure out how to get better at SEO without having to, do outreach and talk to a bunch of strangers.
So we've discussed that over the past 7 years or so, kind of the evolution of SEO. Where do you see it going over the next 7 years?
Uh, so it's interesting. So certainly, I can imagine that within the next, I don't know, 5 years, we'll say seven, because that's what you asked. So in the next 7 years, I would say that typing keywords into a search engine and then clicking on blue links will steadily continue to drop. Eventually, that will just be gone, right? We won't be typing keywords into a search engine and clicking on blue links anymore. For a while, even as recently as last year, uh, all of these LLMs, ChatGPT, if you asked it for like a local business recommendation, it wouldn't give you one. Now, if you ask ChatGPT for a plumber in New Orleans, it will happily give you a list of 5 plumbers in New Orleans, right? So that's a major shift that it's even doing for local SEO, where ChatGPT can now handle these queries. Obviously, Google is scrambling as fast as it can to build its own competitive products. So yeah, typing words into boxes and clicking on blue links, I don't think that's very long for this world. Um, Beyond that, right? There's still large language learning models, right? They still need help to figure out and to figure out what businesses, what websites can be trusted. So everything that we talked about on this episode about building trust on third-party websites, and honestly, I even mentioned links, like external links very briefly. That was the breakthrough that Sergey Brin and Larry Page had back in the 90s when they wrote their Stanford PhD dissertation, which is public. You can go read it if you're ever super bored. When they wrote their Stanford PhD dissertation, because the problem back in the mid 90s was how do we determine what websites are trusted, what websites are giving good information to people? And their breakthrough was that they could use links from other websites to decide that your website is trusted, right? A trusted website doesn't link to spam, right? A trusted website doesn't link to scammy websites. So that breakthrough, how to determine trust, is what has built Alphabet into a $1 trillion company. And that same problem exists if you're talking about optimizing for, Google in 1999, or optimizing for Alta Vista, or optimizing for ChatGPT version 52, or whatever will be, right? They're still trying to figure out which of these businesses, which of these websites, how can I trust them and give that information to my user so that my user doesn't call someone who's just going to scam them, right? Because all of these models, we talked about goal completion for Google. 100% ChatGPT cares so much about goal completion, about keeping its users on ChatGPT, talking to it longer. That's why I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. A couple months ago, OpenAI rolled out this update that made ChatGPT a sycophant. It wasn't doing that because it wanted ChatGPT to be a giant kiss ass. It was doing that because it wanted you, everyone, wanted y'all. I'm in Mississippi, so I can say that it wanted everyone to stay and talk to ChatGPT longer, right? So those same goals that Google has been talking about for 20 years are the exact same goals that OpenAI is trying to. Oh, there we go. We're back. That OpenAI is trying to optimize for, and I don't see those goals going away. Trying to keep the users on the platform and trying to figure out how to determine that something you don't own is trustworthy.
Right.
I don't know. So that was a very long-winded way to say I don't see it changing super much because those are the two main things that we're focusing on
Yeah,
now.
I mean, this conversation has definitely enlightened me to some of those core concepts still exist, and this is still a valuable path to go on, even as we look toward the future as well. So I think that's about all I had for you. I appreciate you jumping in and joining me again here 7 years later, sharing the insights on how SEO has changed, where it's going, but then also updating us on your own course and membership journey. Very enlightening, and hopefully we do this again sooner than 7 years down the road.
Absolutely, man. So much fun. Really appreciate the invite. It's always an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to speak with you, Jacques.
Same here, Caleb. Thank you. All right, such a great conversation with Caleb, and I'm so glad he was able to join us here again. If you want to learn more from Caleb, make sure you check out that Skool group that he mentioned. Head over to skool.com. That's SKOOL.com, and you can search for AI SEO Mastery. That's the name of his Skool group that he talked about. And we'll, of course, put a link to that directly in the show notes as well, which you can find by going to oc.show/263. And don't forget, if you want to learn more from me about how to start and grow an online digital product business, check out my free workshop at oc.show/workshop. Thanks again for listening to another episode here of the Online Course Show. Don't forget to take action on what you heard today. I'm rooting for you.